Studio International has come to talk to the artist Tina Keane in her studio in East London. Keane's work spans over 4 decades and is identified by the theorist Jean Fisher in her introduction to the book Electronic Shadows, The Art of Tina Keane, as exerting an immeasurable influence and contributing to our understanding of artistic invention and political engagement. Keane first studied art at Hammersmith College in the 1970s. 20 years later, she went back to college to study film at London College of Printing. So what made you want to go back to college?
I decided that it would be a good idea to get some sort of like background in a way to actual sort of filmmaking, and a sort of the idea in a sense of how, in a way, to think about in a way. It's hard to explain it really, because as an artist you're often thinking more visually. So then I went on to this course, which is more conceptual, and then I began to actually think much more and understand maybe different terms of filmmaking. So that was quite useful in a way now, you know, so I can put them both together.
Did you begin your student years interested in filmmaking, or was this something that came to you?
I was a painter. That's one of my paintings.
When did you do this painting?
It could be 70s, early 80s. It's one of my later ones, actually, yeah.
So what interested you in film? How did you come to be interested in film?
I think I've always been interested in the moving image, and like with Super 8. I always used Super 8. I had a Super 8 camera, and I had a video, and then I also discovered video. And I loved the idea that you could video anything and also then edit it out. And it gave you much more freedom than Super 8, but Super 8 is also such a lovely medium. But video, in a way, it's a sort of working tool. That's sort of how I see it, you know. And also it's very useful. I started using it in performances as well. So you could do live work as well as to films and so forth, you know. So it opened up also my performances at that time, which was good. So I'd be filming things. I might have also made a short sort of video to show while I'm actually performing as well. I did, that's right. I used to perform in front of the camera as well.
So there would be a sort of play between the live and the recorded?
Yes, exactly, yes. And the idea in the sense of, I never really liked doing performance because I'm very shy. So I used performance in a way to make myself do that, actually. You know? And so that was also quite interesting. And painting, you see, I used to love doing painting, but painting just came. I'd got as far as I could go with it in a way, you know, and then I sort of moved on. But then also there's things like my neon sculptures.
And how did they come about?
Well, I've always loved neon and light, so I really enjoyed making work that actually. That's interesting, actually. When I was quite young, God, yes, I think in my foundation, actually, I did light shows for pop groups.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for a couple of years. And we had a whole sort of Friday and Saturday night just doing the lights for different pop groups. So sometimes we do sort of really main theatres and things like that. But there was a place at All Saints Hall, where near where I lived in Notting Hill, and every Wednesday night we would do the light show for the different groups that came along. Yeah, that was real fun. I enjoyed that, actually. Yeah, and also you see, and again, that's what brought me into film, because what I do is actually make film as well, to actually use film within the actual light show. So it wasn't just moving lights; it was actually sort of images as well. And that was really quite good. Actually, it was fun to do, actually, because we never knew exactly, you know, with the bands we just would make up what we wanted to do and let the band just play on. But it was good, actually, yes. I don't think young people have that now, actually, in the sense that I think it was very much that sort of late 60s, early 70s, where I think things are much freer. That you could do that, you know what I mean?
More playful.
More playful, yes, exactly. And I think that's also disappeared quite a lot, actually. I think people have become the idea is that you have to be a professional as an artist. And artists, we are professional in one way, and another way, we're not professionals at all. Because in a way, you're constantly making new work, having new ideas. So in a way, that one's always moving forward in a sense. So you don't sort of put a stamp on something, you know, because you don't want it to stop. You want your ideas and things to move on and shift. And sometimes by working, new ideas would come. So it's actually through the actual making of the work, and also especially with projections, through projections, new things would happen. And so you were quite free to do things, and I still quite believe that within art, actually, and that's why I like performance art, because sometimes you weren't really quite sure. And then you'd get to a place, and I didn't like doing performance because I was so shy, actually, you know, but I thought it was good to push myself in that way. And then once you got into it and start moving around and doing things, you just lost yourself within the context that you're in. And that was, so I just did quite a few performances, actually, yeah.
You've made some early performances with your daughter.
Yes, I did, yes.
Can you talk to us a bit about those?
I think I did performances with Emily because we always had such a close relationship and talked about things quite a lot. So, and I also thought at that time, actually, people weren't quite sure about women and children. You know, if you're a woman artist, are you a professional if you come around with a child? And from the male thinking, actually, that wasn't really right on. Well, so we were doing this, decided to go on Edinburgh Arts together.
Who's that? You and...
Rosalind Kelsey. Rosalind Kelsey is a wonderful artist, and she's just died recently, which is very sad. And so Rose was much more, very particular. Be quite honest, I'm not that particular. But sometimes I might be a bit rough and ready about making the work in a way, but Rose would be very particular about making the work. And that was also very good, because it was, I think in a way it was good for both of us, you know what I mean? So she'd check me and I can check her. And so we decided to go to Edinburgh Arts. And I took my daughter with me. As I say, she was just 6. And Rose was great, you know, didn't mind, you know. And the three of us used to go, you know, round with all the other artists. There was this coach with Richard DeMarco. And Richard DeMarco had his gallery in Edinburgh. And he showed artists and things like that, showed Rose and showed me and other people. And then he decided we'd all go on a trip. So he got this coach, and we'd been piling the artists from all over the place, you know, and from Europe and so forth, you know. And at first, Richard DeMarco took one look at the child and went, "A child?" and then he forgot about it. And Emily was so wonderful, you know, she just fitted in. And the other artists really liked having her around and things like that.
When Keane visited the Isle of Harris in 1977, she met 80-year-old local woman Peggy Morrison, whose speaking and singing voice Keane wove through her film, images of the waves taken from the ferry, that sometimes revealed her own shadow on the water as she was filming, and became the work she titled Shadow of a Journey.
As I often do, is I play with my camera. And so what I did was I just filmed from the edge of the boat and the shadows. And finally when I came back from a Scottish trip to make the film, and it was all shot Super 8, which is really nice. And so I decided then to make the film Shadow of a Journey, just totally Super 8. Then I blew the Super 8 up to 16mm in the London Filmmakers Co-op. So the film is going, and so all it is the waves in the boat, with her telling you this wonderful story. And the story is about the Highland clearances. That's fantastic. But then she sings, and she sings these folk songs. And this woman, she was old, I mean, she was, you know, and she had this clear, wonderful voice. And I still love to hear her singing. It's wonderful. So when I went back to London and things like that, we did it all by post. So I said, oh, I'm making this film, and I want to talk to you about it and things like that, and can you tell me anything? And then she didn't do a description, she sent me a story. Oh, she's wonderful, you know. And that's how I made my first film, Shadow of a Journey. And it's 20 minutes, it's still going out actually, it goes out. And so that journey was amazing for me because it was also a shift into making film. And a shift of also that art didn't necessarily have to be in the studio, you know, you could be outside. There we are in downtown New York, you know. I've never been to New York before, that was my first visit. I'm standing on the corner of the road and these lorries were coming up from the motorway, and it was like terrifying, huge trucks. I'm standing there going, will I ever get across this road, ever? You know, and then finally there was a space that I could run. And so what I did while I was there, I had my Super 8 camera with me because I always carried it with me. I shot the film of all these trucks, and it's Haymack. And then there's this story, people, again, someone, and songs. And so it's very much about my first visit to New York, you know. And how New York was so different from London. I just couldn't quite believe that. It's a completely different world. And everything's bigger. And I still see myself standing on that edge of the curve thinking, will I ever get across this road? And this is what's so great about the travels and going to places like that, meeting people like this, you know, and telling you stories. And also the generosity. This is what I did find as well. I think I like language in a way, in different ways actually. And I'm not an intellectual in any way at all. You know, I think I'm a very visual person, and so I think by being very visual to also my hearing, what I pick up on, is slightly different. Say if I was an intellectual. And being an artist, you know, and I think you do. When you go to art school, I think you do actually have a completely different education, in a way, because it is about looking, and also about listening. And although art is silent, maybe sometimes the silence also comes out actually within the picture, you know, or in the film, and so on, I think. And so I always found that quite interesting. And it's also, I've always found filmmaking, I just on my little Super 8, and get home, it's a bit like magic, isn't it? And I've always been, since a child, the idea of magic, things that you could do or can't do and so forth, you know. What happened was, I was given a space in the Serpentine Gallery, I think it's 1978. I was just very lucky actually, you know. So, okay, fine. What shall I do? I'm walking across the park, and I know the park really well because my daughter and friends go to the swings. And so, I know what, I'll bring the swings into the gallery. And the curator at first was not too keen on the idea, but they did it, and they were great. And so what I did, so I had the 3 swings, and then put a camera on one of them, so that when the person sits on that, and then you had 1, 2, 3 monitors, one for the live, one which I can't exactly remember what I had filmed. I think it was about filmed inside, because it was, the whole piece was about inside outside, you know, and coming in, and so what I did then was to put the camera onto one of the swings, so people didn't even know it was there. So they'd be sitting on the swing and wondering how on earth this image would keep coming up. and they would actually, in a way, were the camera operators, and they sat on the swing. Yeah. And then they would swing past the window and things like that. And it's quite interesting, you know, like, because the curators weren't too sure about it when I said, well, I wanted to put big swings, you know, in the gallery, you know what I mean, when they're meant to be outside, you know. But they did, you know, they let me do that, you know. Yeah.
You did another work with swings with some circus performers. Well, actually, you suspended them from a crane.
I think I've always enjoyed the idea in the sense of flying. My mother used to always take myself and family. We used to always go to the circus every Christmas, you know, things like that. So I quite enjoyed the circus and the swinging and things like that. And there we were in the Serpentine, and so I said, "Could I have a crane?" They said, "Okay," looking at me weirdly, you know. And then these two trapeze artists who I know, and I said, so. And what we did, they did these marvels, so we got the crane way up high. And then the trapeze artists started to perform, and we put the spotlight on them. Yeah. And so they were in the middle of the Serpentine, you know, outside the gallery. There they were, and all these people gathered round watching these two trapeze artists up in the sky. And in a way, I always thought that's where they should be, you know what I mean? Because they're always intense, they're always sort of confined. So here we are, outside, and they did it for 3 nights, and this amazing crane. When I look back, actually, I think art has become very tame compared to how people did things and or how I did things, you know. We've always wanted to be. Rosamund Kelsey was quite good at that. She was always trying to say, "Oh, we don't want to do it like that. We have to do it differently, don't you know?" And I think that we, from a very early age as artists, that we didn't want to follow the sort of academic way. We wanted, and that's why, in a way, when the whole idea of performance came around, you know, we think, oh, we'll do performances and things like that, and make things. And so sort of painting, I was always around the idea of sound, editing, filming, and performance. It was, and still to this day, I like those things actually. Yeah, Green and Common, I think, was quite an important sort of time, actually, and quite a lot of artwork was made by women on Greenham, actually. Not that you see much of it at all, you know. So that's when I did my Greenham piece.
You were at Central St Martin's for some years, teaching.
Oh yes, I taught there for a long time. Yes, I started off sort of like 3 hours in foundation in the evening, and that's when I first met Isaac Julian, and he came in to say hello to me.
Was he a student?
Yes, he was a student. And then he was my student actually when he moved into painting. I never worked more than 2 days a week because otherwise I couldn't do my own work. And that was great actually, having 2 days, you know, money. But not only that, but it's also the company, the discussions, you know, everything. You know, it's and the teaching was wonderful actually. Yeah, so I was very lucky actually, you know, to have such a wonderful job really. But there is something very exciting about film, because you're never quite sure how it's going to come out. It's in a way like with the editing and things like that, and you can get it very wrong sometimes actually, you know. And then other times it just falls into place beautifully, you know. It's quite difficult. It's a very difficult medium in some ways, and a very good medium. It's very different from we always used to say flat work. Yes. Painting goes on the wall, that's fine, you take up space. And film, it takes up a particular space only for a particular time.
Keane showed us the new film that she's just completed, titled Trapeze. The following extract was recorded from her computer screen.
the filming and the actual editing of it to in a way it's like a memory of a trapeze, you know what I mean? So it's very much about, it's about seeing something, and then every so often you imagine it as it goes, and so this is very much in a way that it's not the actual event anymore, it's the memory of the event.